So this is going to be a video on Spring-heeled Jack, and it's not usually the kind of video we have here, but I thought, you know, we'll try it out, see how many views it gets, and maybe make another one if you're really interested in sort of any of the lore behind him, or anything else. So this is going to be a sort of video essay on Spring-heeled Jack, so let's jump right in. So this guy, Spring-heeled Jack, you probably know him. He's all over pop culture and the media. He's a figure prevalent in a lot of the sort of Victorian penny literature. He's a figure in a lot of the Victorian sort of penny magazines you might have been reading, and but the real question is, was he real, you know, or is it just made up? So we're going to be asking what did he do, when did he do it, and really, was he even real? So he was in London in Victorian era. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first sighting was in 1837, and basically there's a girl called Mary Stevens. She was walking to Lavender Hill, where she was working as a servant after visiting her parents in Battersea, and on her way through Clapham Common, a strange figure leapt at her from a dark alley, and he grabbed her and he began to kiss her and attacking her, and he was apparently cold and clammy, like a corpse. She screamed and he ran from the scene. So that just really seems like that's a sad thing. But the next one, so that's a bit fucked up actually. But the next day, apparently the same guy was seen near the first house, and but this time he did the same thing, but this time he jumped over a 9-foot high wall while cackling with a high-pitched ringing laughter. So he jumped over a 9-foot wall. So this is the point where you can sort of bring into question, well, was he real? You know, you can ask yourself, oh, did he jump over a 9-foot wall? I mean, probably not. It doesn't seem likely. So we've got to think here. You know, was he real? So they had like a big meeting about it, the mayor, and they were saying they described him as a devil, a ghost, and they said he was a spectre clad most perfectly. So there's some good points about him, but overall they don't really seem to like him. And the mayor was skeptical. He was saying some stuff, but I don't really care, because, well, let me know if you want another video on like what the mayor was saying about it, but I don't think you really want to know about the mayor. You probably want to know more about this guy, Spring-heeled Jack, because he's really the focus of the video. So now there are a couple more reports, one by a girl called Jane Alsop, and in 1838 she answered the door of her father's house to a man who was claiming to be a police officer. Then he told her to bring a light, and he was saying, "We've caught Spring-heeled Jack here in the lane." So right, if I was I'd be thinking, right, caught Spring-Heeled Jack here in the lane. I'll get a candle. We'll, get some people together. We'll get him. That'll be the end of it. But when she brought the candle, she noticed he was wearing a large cloak. And the moment she handed him the candle, he threw off the cloak and, I quote, presented a most hideous and frightful appearance. And then he vomited blue and white flame from his mouth. Right, so that's another moment where you go, well, is that real? Because I've been looking it up, but I don't think you can usually do that, even if I know you can breathe flames, but blue, white flames, really? It seems like it might be made up. And then also, apparently his eyes resembled, I quote, red balls of fire. Well, she also reported he wore a large helmet and his clothing appeared to be very tight-fitting. And she screamed for help, but he ran off and he jumped really high again, which was his thing, and he screamed Little Jack, wasn't he? So yeah, he was jumping away from the scene. Yeah, and then the next one is similar, and she was saying that he was breathing he spurted a quantity of blue flame in her face, which deprived her of sight, and so alarmed her, she instantly dropped to the ground and was seized with violent fits, which continued for several hours. So that's unfortunate, really. I do feel bad for her, but I think, well, maybe, yeah, if I saw a guy come and do that, I'd probably be quite scared as well. Probably would have a bit of a violent fit, because it's not very realistic. And then I reckon he jumped over a wall or something again. And then there's like loads of magazines about it, but then he eventually got stopped being seen. Probably because they just got bored of it, and then they were like trying to, I don't know, like breed like Christmas Carol or something. But the real question is, was he, real, or was he made up, really, or was he a real guy? I think the evidence is sort of pointing towards, yes, he was a real guy because they saw him. There was a lot of sightings, but then again, he could have been made up. So you don't know. We've got to look at the evidence and work out, was he real? Seems like he might have been. So the other thing you've got to remember is this is Victorian times. So, and he was pretty fast. We know that he could jump high. He was fast as well. And they didn't have photos in Victorian times. Or maybe they did, hold on. Yeah, so they had photos, but it took like 30 seconds to take. So by that, like, if someone had a camera in that time, like, they would have to like set it up, start taking the picture. So potentially, because it's in London, that's quite a built-up area, so someone might have had a camera in the area. But the problem will be, even if someone's getting attacked by Spring-Heeled Jack, you'd have to get your dad out to set up the camera. He's setting her up and he presses the button, but even from then it would take 15 to 30 seconds to capture that image, and by that time he'd have just ran off. So there's no photos of him, but what we do have is we have these drawings that we can use as evidence to really show that he was real, because they'd drawn him in the newspapers and stuff based on what people had said they'd seen him. And Anyway, so now we'll go into, who was if he was anyone at all, really. So is he a person? And if he's a person, well, is he a person? If he's a person, who is he? Was he even here at all? Was he real? I'm thinking probably not at this point, but you can make your own decision as we go through the options of, who was he? So one main candidate for who people thought he was this guy, the Marquess of Waterford, because he was known for his in the 1830s for his drunken brawling, brutal jokes, and vandalism. So he was a bit of a lad, really, and he was said to do anything for a bet. His irregular behaviour and his contempt for women earned him the title the Mad Marquis. So a bit of a lad, really, a bit of a lad's lad, and he was known in the area. He was in London at the time when it first happened. So that's got you thinking, maybe that was him. A guy called Ebenezer Cobham Brewer. He said that this guy used to amuse himself by springing on travellers unawares to frighten them, and from time to time others have followed his silly example. So he said the Marquis used to amuse himself from time to time by So, but in 1842 he married and settled down in Cragmore House in Watford, and reportedly led an exemplary life until he died in a riding accident in 1859. Which it does make you think, because if he really was if he really was Spring Hill Jack, why would he die in a riding accident? He could have just jumped off, or you'd think he'd be more powerful, then he wouldn't die so easily, But that's just my theory. I don't think it was him, because why would it doesn't make sense, really. He could have jumped off the horse, and landed. That makes me think that it probably wasn't him. If it was, it couldn't have been him. Yeah. So the other theory, and this is probably a better theory of what he is, because it'd be more realistic, was that he's aliens. He could have been an alien or several aliens, but probably just one alien. And this is because of some of his features, basically. So, for example, he had retro-reflective eyes, and that would explain the sort of burning thing in the eyes. You could explain it with science, and that it was he had retro-reflective eyes, or and also because he had phosphorus breath, which would explain the blue. That's because it was actually phosphorus in his breath, which is something that aliens have known. Some aliens can do that, and also the superhuman agility, because when you think about it, in space there's like more gravity or something. So if on Earth, if you want to jump, you could jump how high? Right, so the average jump is you could jump 17 inches, but in space, if they wanted to jump that same amount, you'd have to have a lot more jump strength, because of all the different the forces, the gravity pulling you down. So you'd have to have stronger muscles to jump the same height in space. So if he was an alien, then he would have probably grown up on a planet where they couldn't. They on their planet they would jump the same height as humans could jump on Earth, but to them they'd have to have more strength to do that in their legs, which would explain why on Earth he was jumping higher onto walls and stuff. And you could argue maybe if he'd just come down to Earth, he didn't even know he was going to jump that high. It might have not been intentional, but he's just he's using his abilities, and he's sort of working his way through it, when he's jumping onto walls and stuff. So yeah, that's three things there that quite well explain how he could have done it. So I'm kind of leaning towards the alien one, because I don't think, like, as much as this fella seems like a bit of a bastard, I don't think, like, I think I don't think he could jump high enough to uh, to jump onto that wall. Yeah, but so yeah, that concludes the video. It was probably, in conclusion, I think it was probably made up.